Hi guys, and welcome to another review with us, beautiful Unifani Skulls, and Let's Talk Automotive. And today we've got a Ford, Pete.
Yeah, so it's the Everest Sport and it's the 2-litre SRT, so it's a single turbo and it's a four-wheel drive as well. And we're going to have a look at some of the nuances that are different between this and perhaps another Everest.
Okay, so you had the vehicle for a couple of days now. Like everybody by this time knows that you live on a farm because you keep on telling us. How was this off-road?
Yeah, funny, this, from a suspension point of view, was possibly the best vehicle that I've driven on my farm roads. And I, like I said earlier, in terms of feeling every single bump, I know where all the bumps are and which ones are hard, etc.
Yeah.
Oh, this was fantastic.
All right. Let's talk about design. First impressions from the outside, the exterior, what do you think?
I like it. I like the contrast with the black. I think it looks very classy. It's understated. They haven't really, for a sport model, haven't gone over the top. I love the alloy rims. We're going to talk about those now.
Sure.
But yeah, so it looks the part.
So this Sport, essentially, there's a lot of black trim, black finishes, black color coding on the mirrors. And like you say, maybe we should come around and let's start talking about that. A 20-inch black alloy rim.
And that was the surprise factor because it is a relatively low profile for a 4x4 vehicle, and yet it handled all the bumps with ease.
Awesome. Let's go around and point out some of the other black trim, this Everest badge here, color-coded door handle, or not color-coded, the black door handles. I like it. It's nice and bulky. I'm impressed.
I'll tell you one thing that I did like about this as well with these rims on, is I've always felt the Everest wheel track was a little bit narrow.
Okay.
If you drive behind the Everest, it looks like the wheels are too close together.
Sure.
Whereas this has got a bit more of a staunch, bold stance.
This is a 265, so that's quite a wide tire, a 265 50/20. So yeah. Awesome. Let's talk about the back here quickly, because this is a 7-seat variant as well. So we've got the 2 seats up at the moment. If we have them up, there's not a lot of space here at the back, but if we put them down, I'm sure that that's normal and sufficient sort of spacing.
And look how flat it goes.
Yeah.
And this is, for me, what separates the Everest dramatically from the Fortuner, for example, because the Fortuner, your last row of seats are still sort of hanging up over here, and they do take up a lot of lateral space this way.
Agreed.
And they rattle when you're going over bumps. So
we've got some nice lighting here at the back. We've got hooks. We've got a 12-volt power socket here, tie-down hooks at the front there. I think there's your tools. I think everything that we're supposed to have is down here. I'm pretty happy. It's got reverse camera and it's got park distance control sensors.
I promise you, I know a few people that will still ding the back of the car.
Let's do a funny fit quickly and see what it's like.
Okay, awesome.
Yo, Pete, this is more like it, man.
Yeah, look at all these controls.
This is a proper funny fit, man. It feels like I lost weight. Listen, but there's a lot of stuff happening at the back here. Let's talk about that. There's another power socket here at the back. We can control our air conditioning at the back here.
And not only
vents.
Not only the fan, but also the temperature.
Yeah. The nice vents at the top here. We've got a nice reading light. I'm pretty happy. And remember, this is only the second row. There's another row behind us.
Should we do a funny fit there?
Pete, let's do it. Okay, Peter, so challenge accepted. Let me see if I can get into the back row. So first of all, it's a bit of a challenging, okay, I have to climb in here. All right, I'm crawling in. Okay, I hope the viewers like the view of my bum. And I'm in. And you can move that backwards. Yeah, Pete, if I really have to, I'll be able to make it work for 10 minutes or so. Okay, Pete, so we in the business end, the cockpit. Let's talk about what we have here. Let's start with the steering wheel.
So quite a lot of functionality on the steering wheel. We've got our speedo, cruise and our limiter that we can set here. We've also got our menu buttons for our cluster that we can navigate our menu It's unless if you're used to it, it's not too bad. But it does take a bit of fiddling around to get used to how to access all the different menus and then make different settings. The cluster itself.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. This side, this is all for infotainment in.
So this side here is for your volume and your command and your telephone, and this side here is to regulate this side of the cluster.
Interesting.
Yeah. So you've got different settings that you can access on this side. So the top half of the steering wheel is for your cluster, and the bottom half is for cruise control, and then your infotainment system.
Awesome. Okay, infotainment system. We've come to expect this sort of system. We've got your navigation. This is not connected to a phone at the moment, or is it?
No. So this doesn't have Android Auto.
Okay.
Or Apple CarPlay.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, and that's why you've still got the old navigation system that you can see over here. So it's not dependent on a phone.
Okay. But still does everything that we're supposed to see. Yeah.
I connect my phone from a sound point of view, so I have been playing some of my podcasts while I've been driving, so that's sorted.
Anger management podcast. At the bottom here, our climate control system. We've got power sockets, USB sockets, and again the driving modes. Let's just go through that quickly.
All right, so finally we've got different terrain modes as we've come to expect, so mud and rock crawling and snow and all those kind of things. And in the center over here, if you press this button, that activates our hill descent control.
Awesome. And to the touch, 4x4 low and diff locks and traction control buttons, everything right there at your fingertips.
So it's no longer a separate gear lever, it's all electronic.
Awesome. I think this is pretty impressive. I think we should take it for a drive.
Yeah, let's go and have a look and see how this turbo motor operates.
Awesome. So Pete, we are now inside the Ford Everest Sport, taking it for a drive. So what was your initial impression of this interior? You've been driving the car for a couple of days now.
I have. One of the things that stands out for me with the interior is that there is not a single rattle or squeak. And I, as you know, live on a pretty dodgy dirt road.
Yeah.
And even on the dirt road, you don't hear any rattles or squeaks, but more impressively, the suspension is, I think, one of the best that I've driven on my dirt road.
That's a pretty big statement, because we've had a couple of cars out there. So that's a definite tick mark.
It's a definite tick, and I know that road intimately, so I know which bumps are awkward and which make cars rattle and feel harsh. This really handled all those bumps with absolute ease and comfort.
All right, I think we are in our normal sort of area that we're going to test. I think let's take this to the highway, because we need to talk about something very interesting, and that's the gearbox on this car. So a 10-speed automatic gearbox.
This car's got more gears than Vin Diesel's car. So it's quite weird, actually, because it's got so many gear changes. Obviously, it's a very close gear ratio gearbox.
Yes.
And as a result, at pull-off,
Yeah.
most of the time, unless you, I suppose, have your mother-in-law in the back or a trailer,
Yeah.
it pulls off in second gear. But the initial gear changes, you just don't feel. So this almost gives you a feel of a CVT. And as a result, you don't feel the acceleration. So initially, I thought, okay, engine's not that great. It's a little bit underwhelming. Until I look down at the speedo and I see I'm at 140.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do when we get on the highway is we'll put it in manual mode and feel the difference there as well.
I'd like to do that, yeah. Okay, let's do that test quickly with your, put it into sport, and let's go.
So I'm going to put it in sport now. We've got to press a button to activate sport, so this is serious stuff. And then on the side here, we've got our shift changes over here.
All right.
So we're in 6th gear, so let's pop it down to 5th, and you can hear the gear change immediately happening, and it locks it into gear, and then 7th, Let's get into this lane. There we're in 7th. You can feel it.
Yeah.
8. And
It's still very seamless.
10.
That's amazing.
Well, of course, you're not having these big drops in revs,
Yeah.
which is, the less gear ratios you have, the bigger the drops are going to be.
That's insane and very impressive. Again, Peter, this ticks all the boxes, eh?
Look how quiet it is. I mean, we were at 140 and you barely noticed.
120, Peter.
No, now we're at 120.
Oh, yes, okay. Let's take this turn off here. Okay. Now we have to talk about the offering, Pete. Who does this appeal to? Remember, we've said it over and over again. The segment, very competitive at the moment. Why would we choose the Ford Everest over something else in this segment?
So, interesting question, actually. And we drove the Hyundai Santa Fe the other day, which was an incredible vehicle. But this has a proper off-road 4x4 suspension.
Okay.
And that's why you would choose this, for example, over a Santa Fe in certain conditions. So certainly, from a farm point of view and doing some off-roading and being able to handle the twisties, you want to have a suspension like this.
This is a very good comparison between that Santa Fe and in the segment, the Ford Everest Sport versus the Santa Fe. Both are 7-seaters, very similar in size. That had the 2.2 litre diesel engine in, which was also very impressive.
Yes.
So yes, very, very good comparison. Let's talk about pricing on this.
So that's where I think, in my mind, things go a little bit south for the Everest and the Sport in particular. Because this particular model that we're driving at the moment, which is the 4-wheel or the 4x4, is 728,400.
Yeah.
Now,
so it's getting up there.
It's getting up there, but remember, there's not much in the way of driver assistance systems. In fact, there are none, other than the standard sort of ESPs and the like. No driver aids like lane keep assist or blind spot assist or forward-facing collision avoidance systems or any of those good things.
All right, let's get back to the studio and just give our final thoughts and the rating. Peter, I'm pleasantly surprised and impressed.
It's a very comfortable, very quiet vehicle, especially if you consider that ultimately this is based on the Ranger Bucky platform.
Yeah. I think, my final thoughts would be, I think it's a pretty good all-round vehicle. Like we discussed in the car, the comparison to, what was it called, the Santa Fe. Very, very similarly priced. It's got the 7 seats, it's got all the bells and whistles. I just feel that this has got a little bit more edge off-road.
No, for sure. And that's, again, would be the decision-making sort of criteria.
Yes.
What are you going to use this vehicle for? If you're going to use it predominantly as an urban cruiser, then maybe you got other choices that you'd have a look at. But no doubt, if you are somebody like myself that's constantly on serious off-road conditions, then I would start to lean towards this, because I just feel that a vehicle like this is not going to fall apart as quickly as maybe some of the others.
Right, Peter, so as always, we have to answer a couple of questions now. So first question that we always ask and answer is, would you buy this, yes or no? And then we have to give it a rating out of 10. So let's start with your rating.
So in terms of a rating, I'm going to give it, it's a difficult one, because I'm of the opinion that this is getting towards the end of its life cycle.
Okay.
And so we're going to expect to see a new version come in. But having said that, considering that I believe it's right there about to be replaced, it's still as fresh and evergreen as ever.
Yeah.
It's missing a few of the driver assistance features.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to give it a 10 out of 10. And I think it's a little bit on the pricey side for my liking, but nonetheless, a solid 8 out of 10.
I agree with you on an 8 out of 10. There is a little bit of, the technology that I think is a little bit lacking. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where I deducted a little bit of points, but I like this car. It performs well. I like the new engine. I would definitely add this to my collection. Let's say that.
And what a collection it's becoming.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for joining us on this review of the new Everest Sport, and we'll see you guys again next week.
Cheers, everyone.